Back in the 1940s, something totally new exploded onto the music scene. It was super fast, it was really complex, and it completely rewrote the rules of jazz. This is the story of bebop, and it was a full-blown musical revolution. So, what does a musical rebellion actually sound like? I mean, imagine a style of music that moves so fast, with so many twists and turns that you couldn't even dream of dancing to it. That's the question a group of young, brilliant musicians started to ask themselves. And their answer? Well, it was a sound that basically turned the entire music world upside down. So let's dive in and break down what made this new style, this thing called bebop, so incredibly different. Okay, so what is bebop really? The best way to think about it is like jazz on hyperdrive. The speed was just cranked all the way up, the tunes were jam-packed with surprising notes, and the solos, they were totally wild, daring, and unpredictable. This wasn't just background music for a dance party, this was serious art that you had to sit down and really listen to. Now, you know every revolution needs its leaders, right? For bebop, the main voices leading the charge were the horn players. These were the folks right at the front of the stage, inventing this brand new high-speed language basically on the fly. And here are the two main architects of that sound. On one side, you've got Charlie Parker, nicknamed Bird. His saxophone playing was so ridiculously fast and nimble, it was unlike anything anyone had ever heard before. He was a true genius, bringing in all these complex new scales. And on the other side, you've got the one and only Dizzy Gillespie on trumpet. He was this virtuosic, powerful performer, famous for those puffed-out cheeks and his signature bent trumpet. And he brought in these amazing Afro-Cuban rhythms that gave the music a whole new energy. I mean, together, these two were an absolute force of nature. And you know, an idea this good, it's gonna spread like wildfire. Other musicians heard what was happening and they wanted in. You had Dexter Gordon, who proved that the big, powerful tenor sax could totally hang with bebop's complexity. Then there was J.J. Johnson, who did something people thought was impossible. He made the trombone, which can be kind of clumsy, sound just as fast and clean as a saxophone. And you had guys like Fats Navarro on trumpet, who offered a different flavor, a richer, smoother sound that was a cool contrast to Dizzy's fiery style. But think about it. For these super fast horns to really take flight, they needed a whole new kind of engine room. The rhythm section, that's the piano, bass, and drums, had to completely reinvent the way they played just to keep up. See, before bebop, a drummer's job was pretty simple. You were there to keep a steady, heavy beat so people could dance. You know, just a solid thump, thump, thump. Really straightforward. But the bebop drummers, they flipped that script completely. The drums were no longer just about keeping time. They became part of the musical conversation. Drummers started dropping these surprising loud hits on the bass drum. They actually called them bombs, and it added this incredible layer of excitement and texture. Let's talk about the two guys who really made this happen. It started with Kenny Clark. He is the one who invented that whole dropping bombs thing. But then Max Roach came along and started a full-on revolution. He shifted the main job of keeping time away from the heavy bass drum and moved it to the light, shimmering ride cymbal. This was a huge deal. It totally opened up the music, made it feel lighter, and gave drummers the freedom to be way more creative. And then you had the piano. Thelonious Monk was a true original, a complete one-of-a-kind. He played with this quirky, rhythmic style, and he wasn't afraid to use silence just as powerfully as he used notes. For Monk, it wasn't about how many notes you could play. It was all about the feeling and rhythm behind the notes, which this quote just perfectly captures. But the guy who really defined the bebop piano style for everyone else was Bud Powell. His technique was a total game changer. Basically, he treated his two hands like two separate instruments. His left hand would just play the chords, outlining the harmony of the song. And that left his right hand totally free to fly across the keyboard, playing these lightning-fast melodies, just like Charlie Parker's saxophone. This idea became the blueprint for almost all modern jazz piano. So we've met all these incredible innovators, but a revolution is never just about a few key people, right? It's about how those ideas catch on and who helps carry that torch forward. And you can't tell this story without talking about Mary Lou Williams. She was a genius pianist and composer, and she was a little older and more experienced than the young guys. Her apartment in New York basically became the unofficial headquarters for bebop. It was this creative hub where musicians like Monk and Gillespie would hang out, share their new ideas, and really learn from her incredible musical mind. And of course, the next generation was paying close attention. A very young trumpet player named Miles Davis got his big break playing in Charlie Parker's band. Now, he couldn't quite keep up with Bird's insane speed, so he was forced to develop his own thing, a style that was cooler, used more space, and was way more thoughtful. All those lessons he learned playing bebop became the foundation for his own legendary career. And then you had musicians like Sonny Stitt, who just became absolute masters of the pure bebop language. He was kind of known as a lone wolf. He would travel all over, and he was famous for challenging local musicians to these intense musical battles or cutting contests. He's one of the guys who kept that pure, uncut bebop flame burning for decades. So when you put it all together, what's the big takeaway? Well, bebop's impact was just massive. It became the foundation for pretty much all of modern jazz. It's what took jazz from being primarily dance music and turned it into a respected art form you'd hear in a concert hall. It proved that any instrument, no matter how clumsy, could be played with unbelievable speed and creativity. And maybe most importantly, it inspired generations of musicians to just tear up the rulebook and find their own new sounds. And that really leaves us with one final thought. The pioneers of bebop were completely fearless. They broke all the rules to create something new, exciting, and beautiful. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What rules, in music, in art, in anything, are out there right now just waiting for someone to come along and break them?